We can get started. Cool. So yeah, I mean, at least for me, it's been some time since I'm catching up with everybody. How's everybody doing? On anyone got anything to say? Any updates in your personal lives or anything?
Was nice to meet people. Stagnet's easy, to be honest.
I know it's good to put faces to names. Alex, are you going to Starknet Summit?
Oh yeah, I was planning to. I don't have my ticket yet. I was gonna apply for the Hacker House, but I don't have any ideas. That was like one of the fields to enter.
God's Power. Do you go by Easy or God's Power, or what should we call you?
Anyone. Easy,
Okay.
go for anyone.
Are you going to Starknet Summit?
Actually, I'm not going. I'm not going. It's hard to get visas, so you just don't just try. I got rejected for ETCC and I got rejected for Starknet Tel Aviv. So I'm not really apply for visas like yeah, scary.
From where are you from?
I'm from Nigeria.
Nigeria, okay.
And Matt, I'm assuming you'll be there, right?
I will definitely be there. And Manmeet and I, we're talking with the USC guys. Right now, tentatively, we want to host a Stark LA event at USC on the 6th. So that would be the weekend or the Thursday, I think, following Starknet Summit. And hopefully we can get some of the Starkware PMs and dev advocates down there maybe. So
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's gonna be an awesome time. I'm unfortunately not gonna be there, but my FOMO is out of the roof.
Yeah.
Luke,
yeah. It's gonna be just like the first big conference, in the US basically. Yeah.
I know. I got plenty of shaming in Paris for it. Hey, Tony, do you want to introduce yourself? I haven't met you at least.
I'm new here, I'm new to open source in general, so I just hope to contribute to Beerus if I would be available.
You submitted the PR though, right?
Yeah. I created small PR about documentation, so it's pretty simple. I hope I did it right because I'm really a little bit new to Rust, but I hope it will be fine. So
I just went through that one. That one looks really good to me. That's something that we've been talking about for a while, just getting basically those kind of recipes that you have there. So yeah, that looks really good to me. Something is a little off in our CI, so we have a couple things to fix before we merge it, but I didn't have any feedback on it really. I think it looked really good. Alex, did you have anything on that one?
No, I took a look at it, but I'm not an approver, so I was waiting for. But it looked good to me too. Yeah. I know that you mentioned that it was kind of redundant, the stuff that was in the client file and is also in our .env example, but I mean, like, it's cool having it in two places. More the merrier.
Cool. Cool. So yeah, like I said, some of our CI is a little wonky. I'll go in and fix some of that before we start merging these, but really everything in our PR backlog looks pretty good and pretty self-explanatory. The only one that we really need, at least that I was thinking that we need to talk about, is this one from Robon, who is unfortunately out today. But he has some additional CI for integration testing here. And it looks like his bash script is failing out here. So 13 failing files out of 49. So we'll get an update from him in Telegram because he's not going to be on the call today. But yeah, let's go through the other ones just briefly. Some tests around the Helios light client. Alex, it looks like you're a commenter in here. So something something is Luke, right? Or no, Startup Dreamer. Is Startup Dreamer on here?
Think not.
Okay, Alex, do you have anything to say on this one?
No, it seems like it's incomplete though. It was a work in progress, but he said that it was working for the tests that he had added. So I guess this issue is still open. He's just still adding tests,
Okay,
but it seems like he knows just some direction, but he's good on it. Yeah.
okay, I'll just ping for an update.
Yeah, so Luke is this pseudo I can pronounce, but this is Luke.
Wait, say again. I missed that.
You have in the chat. Luke is the one you just mentioned a bit earlier, I think.
Yeah, he's something something. Is that right?
Okay, yeah, something. Yeah, it's Luke. This is Luke.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this one I just went through this one. It looks good, but like I said, we have some hangups on the CI. Let's check it out. Oh, actually, I do think this is on your side easy. This JSON RPC type return error. Cool. So if you can just clean that up, I think that one's good to go. Awesome. This Zoom thing always gets in my way. Okay, so we got that one. So now it's to some of Luke's. Luke, do you want to give a status here? These looked pretty straightforward to me. Some config tests, just to make sure we're panicking if we get bad configs. Do you want to give an update?
He said that his mic is not working, I think, but perhaps he will write
He'll have to
something.
type it out in chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
The old
Yeah, but
ways.
you can
Oh.
make feedback, Luke, if you want. Sorry, Alex.
No, it's okay. I was making a joke, which is completely uncalled for.
Was it funny?
There is no specific feedback from Luke. He said basically that's it. So
Okay, cool. Okay, some similar things here. Luke, is this redundant of the previous pull request? Like, can we close 50? Can we close 506 in lieu of 507? Can we close 504 in lieu of 507? Open up the chat. Okay, cool. There was a little redundancy. I think that what you said is right. Okay, so let me go through and close this. All right, sounds good. Let's keep cruising. The docs, like we said, I think all of those look really good to me. Maybe if one other contributor can go in and just check the recipes that Tom has added. Is anyone available for that?
which recipes are we talking about exactly? Just to understand.
Yeah, so Tom went in and in these in the README and in some example files, he basically has a basic initialization for setting up the client and making a call. And then he does that again with like function calls. At specific block numbers, basically. So, someone coming in and using Beerus knows how to integrate it.
Oh, okay. I can review it if you want to take it a look and make a feedback if necessary.
Okay. Awesome. I think, Luke, I don't think there's any redundancy in this one. Correct me if I'm wrong. So from 507 to 510, those are both covering different parts of the code base. Is that correct? Okay. Sweet. That only leaves us with the last one. Is Ninja 342 on the call? It's so funny, the mapping from GitHub handles to real people.
Oh, I'm glad that you brought this up. This guy also he actually had a question in our discussions. Discussions tab, where he's asking if it supports both like querying pending blocks. And other stuff. So like I wish he was on this community call.
Okay. Simulate transaction and estimate gas using StarkNet Pi. Okay. Support querying pending blocks, and he's getting this error. Okay, so this, I don't know if you guys have run into this. Invalid sync committee signature. This is basically actually coming from the Helios side. And there's this website, I believe, checkpoints. I'll put it in the chat. But basically, some of your weak subjectivity checkpoints can get either out of date on the Helios side, or I think Helios doesn't know exactly how to handle it if it's out of a certain time scope. So if you're running into that issue, you can basically take a checkpoint from this website and add it to your Beerus config. I'll put that in the Telegram chat as well.
Is it okay to provide this link to README file?
Yeah, I think that would be good. Do you want to?
Ron was running into this issue.
Okay.
The GitHub actions for our cron job. So
Okay.
Because I don't think they throw up a helpful error when this happens.
Yeah, and there's actually another error that crops up too. I have a screenshot of it somewhere. I'm not gonna be able to find it, but it's not that error, but it looks similar in the Beerus output, in the Beerus logs. But it's the same issue under the hood. Okay, so I'll answer that after this call.
Yeah, but also remember we can choose a checkpoint with variable, right? So we can perhaps see. Do you remember that we made the modifications just like this? We are able to do on the fly change the checkpoint that we want Helios to choose.
But that's only on initialization of Helios, right?
Yes, at the beginning of Beerus.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can essentially put this in your config, either in the Beerus config file or in your environment.
Yeah, exactly. But then I don't think we can be able to make it out swapping because Helios is just using it at the initialization.
Right. But this is just an initialization error though. So like once it has a valid sync committee, Helios will init. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. That seems good for our PR backlog. Like I mentioned, we're going to start moving to sprints. I'd like this sprint to be focused mainly on simplifying the code base and also the Argent integration. So Alex, do you have any updates on the Argent integration or where that's at right now?
No, I don't have any updates on that right now.
Okay. One of the things I'm going to do is spin up a Chrome extension. So I'll spin it up in Keep Starknet Strange organization. It'll basically just be called, Beerus extension or something of that sort. And it's going to be used to mock out, what a wallet is going to need to call from Beerus's side to verify that the, let's just say the ERC20 balance is valid from the Merkle proof. So I think that'll start our integration. Once we have that routing set up, we can then go back to Argent and say, hey, this is how we've done it in our Chrome extension. This is probably what you guys need to do in your Chrome extension. So a couple of questions. Does anyone have experience in Chrome extensions on the call?
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. By the way, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect.
Is anyone interested in working on that with me?
I will not have the time, I think, during this sprint for this task. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'll work with you on this one.
Okay, cool. I'll assign that to us too. Okay, so the other thing is simplifying the code base. We have a lot of good PRs around coverage. I think we're heading in the right direction with test coverage. So for people that know the code base well, I'd kind of just like to open it up to suggestions on simplifying the code base, or do you think this is even something that we should focus on? Yeah, floor's open really.
You already
So
put back the coverage one, right? The coverage bot.
What was that?
Coverage bot, the bot for coverage is already on track, right?
It's
You
yeah,
might-
yeah. All of these, yeah, basically all of our backlog is centered around code coverage. Easy and Luke have both submitted good PRs in that direction. So I mean, it's not, I think we're still pretty low, but we're heading in the right direction. Let's see.
Yeah, and as you said, simplifying the code base will naturally goes up, no? When we just trim some code and refactor.
Right. Let's see.
54.
Not great.
That's a start.
Dubs actually also has a discussion that he wanted to center around RPC testing, which I think is a good idea. So he talks about how Kakarot does RPC testing and how we should maybe mimic that. Oh, sorry, this is Damien that has this. Moving away from WireMock and moving towards a different testing framework. So if we move forward with this, I think we can, get, because it looks like the RPC is really where we're lacking a lot of coverage. Obviously core needs to come up, but 15% on the RPC endpoints is probably where we need to focus. So Damien, I talked to Damien. He said on Monday he can start this work. Does anyone have any strong feelings about moving away from WireMock or the way we currently do RPC testing? No.
No, not enough experience on that.
Sounds good. Then Damien, you basically have the go ahead to work on this, I think. All right, sweet. Then we can basically get into some, we can basically get into these presentations. So I know we have a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, and light clients themselves are, fairly new concepts, or at least fairly new, production code based concepts. So I thought one of the interesting things that we could do is to do some presentations on how other people, other protocols implement light clients. Another way that this affects Beerus itself is we've kind of been talking about the direction of Beerus and where Beerus is going to go. I think that this will help us define what Beerus can be. So if you guys that are doing the presentations can also kind of, at the tail end say, what can we take from these protocols and what can we use in Beerus moving forward? Let me just look at our notes. Easy, do you want to go first with Bitcoin?
Yeah, I have a simple presentation. So let me just try to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So so basically there are not a lot of documented light clients on Bitcoin, but then the one that stands out is the SPV, which is oh, I made a mistake here, but basically this is supposed to be simple payment verification. Simple payment, which basically means that based on the design of the Bitcoin blockchains, basically this is just a way of verifying transactions, verifying payments, and rather than just basically achieving what it's supposed to do, but in a lighter way, which is what most light clients are supposed to do. So basically here are some key things about the SPV, which is basically for verifying Bitcoin payments. And then they use this, the Meku tree used in Bitcoin is quite simpler than the one used in Ethereum and other chains. So basically you just get the Meku roots from the block header, you verify that all the transactions, or you verify a particular transaction, you verify that that transaction is a member of the block, right? Of the block. You don't need to verify the whole chain, but then you just need to verify that a transaction is part of a block. Then there's this cool thing they use for efficient searching, which is the Bloom filter. So it's just a cool way of, or a simpler way, and more efficient way, not necessarily cool, but basically is just a way for them to be able to search in a way that it doesn't, it's not too expensive or too computationally expensive for the SPV itself. So basically, it's more like an array, and basically you have on and off bits, and then when you now have multiple ons. So anytime you want to look for a particular transaction, you kind of search, and it's able to say if a transaction is not included, but it's not able to say exactly if it's included. So it's basically a probability data structure. Basically, it's depending on how maybe the amount of ones you have, you might say it's probably 70% yes and no, but then it's very efficient, and that's what they use. And then so basically, like I said at the beginning, I think Bitcoin was the starting of all this, right? So it has a very, in terms of technical, it's in terms of the technical part of it, it's really, really simple, right? It doesn't most Stacknet or Ethereum, they have more let's say cooler technologies or better ways to solve this problem. But one thing that I actually got from just reading about the SPV is actually simplicity, right? It's very simple. You could literally understand how it works just from reading the one-page documentation. And that is what I think we could learn from Bitcoin, or we could get from Bitcoin, which is basically, I'm not necessarily saying Beerus is not simple, but at the same time, it's more like a way of thinking around building the software, a way of like the decisions we make, right? And I think Ben mentioned something about making the code simple, and I think that's actually really good. And recently, I was opportune to work on a project which is it's called ISMP, and basically what this project does is it's supposed to interact. It's supposed to be like an for basically an interoperability protocol, right? But then the protocol is really simple, right? It's like you could literally just take the spec and you're already understanding what's happening, and that's really something nice, because in as much as it's not something that's popular, if you're able to understand something really well, in the long run, it kind of helps understand how it works, and in turn, it brings more people into the ecosystem, because a lot of these things are kind of scary when you look at them and you look at like a lot of things happening. But then when you have like a simple way of doing things, or a simple architecture, a simple way of solving problems, you're able to get more people to even join. And also the development is faster, and there are like many other benefits of having a simple architecture and a simple code base. So like I said, right now, most of the technologies for light clients are more shinier than what is currently available in Bitcoin, but it works really well, and they're using it, right? So thank you very much. And this is just have like the guide I used, and yeah.
That's awesome. So on the Bloom filter side, how does the light client is checking for transaction inclusion, right?
Yes.
How does it populate the Bloom filter without seeing every transaction, or am I misunderstanding that?
Okay, so the way I think it works is that it creates the Bloom filter itself and then sends it. Then the node could like on and off things based on if it actually exists in the block. So that's how I think it works. But then this resource would also say more about it. For yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's how I understand it too. And I know that Geth uses a Bloom filter too. I think like you said, it's a long array, and each slot in the array is filled with a hash of a transaction, and it's basically that bit is turned on. But the thing I'm confused about is like, in order to check for transaction inclusion, it would need to know every transaction that had occurred to date, right? So that's almost like something a full node would run and populate.
I think the check happens in per block, I think.
Okay.
Because even based
Okay.
on, yeah, it doesn't happen for the whole chain. So I think the idea is that you don't necessarily have to check all the blocks, because if you're able to get like a honest node and fetch from them, because they are like the block with the highest depth, you can say that they are the most trusted or something like that. So yeah, I don't think you necessarily check the whole chain, just check per block. Even the whole idea of SPV is not the whole chain, just a particular block. So you can check for transaction in a block. Yeah.
Okay. Would you be willing to do a spike on how we can incorporate a Bloom filter?
Yes. I don't know what I mean by spike, but I would be willing
Spike
to like do some.
Spike just means like not necessarily code related or not necessarily PR related, more just like just some research on, how would a Bloom filter look in Beerus if we were to do it? Does it even make sense? It's kind of like rule it in or rule it out. Do we actually spend dev time on this thing? And again, a spike is still a contribution. So, as far as only dust, that would still be seen as a contribution.
Okay, yeah, I'll be willing to do that. Yeah, I think I was actually thinking of implementing a Bloom filter just for fun. So this would help me like just incorporate everything together and see how it works.
Awesome. Okay, I'll set that up and assign it to you.
Okay.
Sweet. Thank you for that. Let's go to who is next on our list here. Alex, do you want to do Celestia?
Yeah, sure. One sec. All right, so I was sick last week. I had to go to the hospital, but I was able to put some stuff together. So if there's any gaps in my knowledge, apologies in advance.
You feeling okay now?
Yeah,
He's just gonna drop the hospital bomb and move on to.
no, I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine. They like check me out. Everything's cool. Like my problems are not. They're like you're not gonna die, and we can't help you here. So get out of here. So I was like, all right. So I gotta go and see a real doctor.
Here's a bill for $10,000.
Yeah, America. Fuck yeah. All right. So Celestia doesn't have light clients per se. Their version of a light client is actually a light node. It's the primary way of interacting with the Celestia blockchain. And so since it leverages some of the infrastructure of the blockchain, I was going to talk about their modular blockchain architecture in general before I actually get to the light node. So can you see this stuff? So monolithic versus modular.
Yep.
So they make a distinction between a monolithic blockchain in that you have a consensus layer handling execution, settlement, and data layer. So it's not optimizable in their eyes. And they move to a modular architecture where you have an execution layer, settlement layer, but the consensus layer is around a data availability layer. And that will show up later in, wait, let's just go forward, go back. Okay. So what's important to understand is that light nodes, the way that they do verification is they download it. So, okay, let's back up. So they use a version of Tendermint as their consensus layer. The augmented version of Tendermint that they use has erasure coding and the ability to namespace Merkle trees. So it's a partitioning of namespace. So you don't need, if you have a namespace, then if an app has a namespace in the that's partitioned, then it only has to be concerned about the data within that namespace. And then the erasure coding, if you're not familiar with that, it's like if you have a CD with 1 megabytes of information, you can blow it up to 2 megabytes of information. So it's a kind of like way of being able to create like data that's missing from data that's there. And what is sent to the light node so the Celestia core is actually the augmented Tendermint consensus layer. It takes the executable transactions and the blob transactions, and it creates a wrapped block header. So what it actually emits for the light nodes to pick up is in a block header, the new block header, when the new block's available, it's an extended header that has the executable transactions and the blobs as data in it, and also the header. And the way that it's able to transfer like all this block information to the light nodes without it being crazy is it uses this 2D Reed-Solomon encoding to create a two-dimensional data primitive that the light node can sample in order to verify that the block is a valid block. So rather than, so each of these light nodes has to download this, this data, and then it samples it, and then it's able to take from the samples, determine that the block is actually a real verified block. I can't remember like what how it improves, but like it's like one sample like means that 25% is verified, but like if you get up to like 7 data samples, then it's 99% of the block is verified. And in that way, the light node is able to do the verification itself. It just needs to download this data, this extended header from the consensus layer. So and so, you can send transactions with the light node. What the setup for the light node is actually a wallet that gets created that has that you can fund and you can use. And it's really small. And because they're relying on the architecture of Celestia to like do all this, I don't know like what you can take away from it for Beerus. And I'm not a mathematician, so I don't know how much, like if you take data sampling as like a way of like verifying like a large like Merkle tree or proof or whatever, like if you take storage proofs as like different, like a subset of like of something, I don't know, in order to like verify a larger state. I'm kind of waffling here, but yeah, I mean, so that's basically what Celestia is about.
That's actually super interesting because Ben and I were talking about some stuff related to erasure coding and exactly what you just showed us. And I'm just wondering how, by sampling, they can deduce that the data is proven or is valid. This is very interesting. This is very interesting because the way you fragment your data is one part of, as you said, mathematics, and it's very interesting the way you can split the data and then reconstruct even if some fragments are missing. This is huge as a technology, but that's just strike me, and I just want to understand how they can, because you already explained some stuff, but that's very interesting. How can they prove, or how can they trust something just because it's reconstructable, is reliable, or there it's like it's super interesting.
Yeah, so the consensus layer can replay all the transactions at any point in time and verify the block. So I mean, like, and that's all. I mean, I think that, yeah, I don't know. I since I didn't have time to like learn Golang and go and go through their code.
No, that's already very nice to have, the insight of how they are doing it. So that's actually very cool.
I think for Beerus core, at the end of the day, just trying to, do these things like we've said, just keep it as simple as possible for on the Beerus side. I do think, at least for the short term, this kind of like erasure coding scheme doesn't make a ton of sense. That being said, Glim has a project called Potara FS that implements it, or at least the goal is to implement some of this kind of stuff. So I do think that it makes sense to live in the ecosystem, but maybe not in-house in Beerus. Glim, do you still have that document around Potara?
I just have the notion, but I am getting back on this, so I will be able in the few weeks to be able to pre-post some more illustrated stuff. But I do agree on what you said, and because I think for us in Beerus we can prove more easier than even without thinking about erasure coding on fragments. But it can definitely complement in a way how data is available.
The one takeaway that I thought would be nice to incorporate, I liked that they, from their perspective, like the main way to interact with their blockchain is through a light node rather than, requiring a full node, So I don't know if that was like, that would be like a nice, like kind of guiding light as far as like, hey, everybody should be interacting with Starknet using Beerus. This is the way to do it. And our infrastructure supports it. I don't know. But I again, like keeping it lightweight, it's, data, whether through erasure coding or data sampling or whatever, I don't know how to do that with the way that we have it configured currently. So
I do think that would be awesome. In my opinion, like the state needs to be held somewhere by somebody. So in that scheme, it sounds like it is just an erasure coded state. So then, that is how they implement that like primary interface being the light client. So yeah, I think if you were going to step away from like, all of the state being held on a full node, you would essentially have to erasure code the full node, which would be something similar to Potara, I think.
Mhm. Yes, but as you said, Alex, like if you can just have Beerus and you can go through Beerus to access all of the Starknet easily, and that can be a very nice motivation and something we can propose. And about the fragmentation of the data is just for more for data availability and be sure that we can, you know, spread the data and not only relying on full node as Ben is saying, and being a bit more, you know, reliable and robust in the future.
Sweet, that was awesome. Thank you, Alex. Let's go to Luke for near.
Your mic is probably fine, but you're muted, man.
We still can't hear you, unfortunately, Luke.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you calling? I have very bad lag. I'm at a hotel, so the internet's a bit spotty. Were you asking me to start my presentation?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I unfortunately traveling this week, and it's been a little bit of a grind. I feel like I can't say anything after hearing about other people's woes, particularly Alex. I hope you're feeling good. But anyways, so I kind of looked at Near. And what I could do is I can kind of like run down the notes I have,
Sweet.
or I could make a presentation and record it. So I don't know which one would be more effective, but here live, I don't know if anyone has an opinion on that. It will only be audio only, unfortunately, if I run through the notes I have right now.
If you run through the notes, like we'll be able to actually give you feedback and stuff. Do you want to do both?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, sure. That sounds fun to me. Well, why don't I just jump in, and yeah, if it's interesting, I can flesh it out more. So of course, excuse me, Near is a sharded blockchain using what I can tell basically something called a data structure called a receipt to communicate between shards with tight gas limits, so that kind of the asynchronicity between how far the shards develop is basically limited to 1 second. So this kind of network of shards are sort of connected to these receipts, and everything is tightly controlled, so that, you know, if you're doing some transaction or some action and a smart contract takes this huge amount of gas or type of computational resources, that's going to be limited as far as I know. And that just keeps the asynchronicity of the whole blockchain within some type of, you know, reasonable bound, so that there is still like a cogent state, I guess, to the blockchain. Yeah, and so apparently this data, this way of structuring the blockchain, they say is like infinitely scalable. Sounds a bit suspicious. That claim, that's a big claim, but I don't know. Hey, maybe. I think currently only have like 100 validators. And I guess that's, of course, something that they're going to expand. Of course, they have a light client specification. This is something in their, they call it the Nomicon documents. It really seemed pretty unremarkable as far as I know in terms of light clients. And I'll just quote it here. Light clients operate by periodically fetching instances of, quote, light client block view via particular RPC endpoints described below. And it's just saying that, you know, the light client pings the node. The node provides a hash based upon like kind of where it is relative to the epoch, where the ping occurred relative within the epoch. So I'll just go ahead and read it. The RPC returns the light client block for the block as far into the future from the last known hash as possible for the light client to still accept it. Specifically, it either returns the last final block of the next epoch or the last final known block. If there's no newer final block, then the one the light client knows about, the RPC returns an empty result. So what I kind of understand from typical light clients, that didn't seem particularly remarkable. I don't know if that's just me. I'd be interested if others would say something different. The one thing that I did notice in the Near ecosystem that I think was interesting is called Zpoken. And this is something, I hope I can get his name right. I think it was Paul Henry noted in his notes of kind of like things to look at, projects to look at. And it does seem like an interesting project. So it's a ZK light client standard that this, I think it's just like a 2-person dev shop is developing with, I think it's Pagoda, the Near people. So basically, this just, oh shoot, there's a diagram that I can't share. Let me describe it. I'll put the notes in. I'll put the tag the GitHub in the notes here. But basically, what does it do? It recursively proves the computational schedule of all the epoch blocks. So it's only pinging proofs from the end of the epoch. So kind of like these proofs come at a regular cadence. They're hashed into, then they go through some type of proving algorithm, which I don't have details on, to make a proof. And these are chained together and they just occur in this periodic synchronicity, I guess, is kind of what I gathered from it. So that seemed interesting, just kind of like the regular cadence of it and just kind of how they reduced it to this sort of state checkup occurring kind of like at a regular interval. So with that, what are people doing with this? Again, I don't have details, kind of had to rush through a lot of this research, obviously, but they are teaming with Wormhole. So Wormhole is a bridge between Ethereum and Near. And I should back up and say that Z-Spoken is snarks. And I think they're also working towards recursive snarks, which I understand is a lot less intensive than Starks. I think it's a trusted setup, which is obviously something that piques my ears, I guess. And I think there's a few other things about snarks, but they do seem like they're pretty efficient from what I was able to gather throughout this research. So anyways, the Wormhole project, a bridge between the Near ecosystem and Ethereum. Wormhole core contributors will be joining Zpoken. Other contributors across the Near ecosystem developed the first ZK-like client that can prove and verify Ethereum and Near state without the same trust assumptions required today. So that's a interesting. That's not something that I immediately thought of as like client for. I mean, obviously, a like client seems to be involved with proving state, right? So why can't that spread across blockchains? I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if people have other things to say there. There is an interesting YouTube video where they this team of kind of like the ZK people in the Near ecosystem sort of hash out details. It was a good watch. Did it kind of like listen to it while I was doing some other stuff, but it was kind of interesting. And the main takeaway I had was in this same video, the Mina people showed up and they were talking about, and this is kind of leaving like clients a little bit, but they were talking about, things as they thought about Snarky JS, so they really like Snarky JS and they really like Snarky JS because it can compile down into WASM. And of course, anything that is compiled down to WASM can be kept in the browser. And so they had this approach or this idea of using Snarky JS to handle the privacy centric parts of I guess transactions being built in the browser. So it kind of made me wonder, getting to like how can Beerus maybe apply this? This could be completely out of scope easily, but I would wonder if there's any part of the Stark computation that could possibly be offloaded into a light client, and specifically any part of that computation that involves privacy sensitive information. So that was kind of like the one thing I was thinking could be completely doesn't make sense. But that was one thought I had after like listening to this really interesting YouTube video with a lot of ZK kind of smart people kind of going down this sort of light client bridging sort of rabbit hole. And the other thing they just kind of talked about was, just the kind of efficient injection of state into transactions, basically through ZK stuff. I don't know if that really touches on light clients. So yeah, that's really kind of chicken scratchy. But yeah, it was kind of a start. It's an interesting rabbit hole, and the Zpoken thing is an interesting project to look into and to build. I didn't notice very like descriptive documents, like for example, a white paper. But however, it does seem like something worth digging deeper into, perhaps with mindful of relevance to Beerus. But yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, that's the diagram I was thinking of.
That is awesome. So one thing on the Zpoken side, I actually met them in Austin, and they're actually in the Beerus Telegram channel.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense.
So so one question I guess is, obviously this Plonky 2 and this Snark engineering is pretty, forefront of what's going on in the ecosystem right now.
Yeah.
Is this something you would want to look? I mean, I think that this is a really interesting point in terms of like snarkifying Beerus or Starkifying Beerus potentially, which we kind of have talked about on these community calls, but it's such a mind fuck that like no one's really
Yeah.
taken it yet. Is this something you'd be interested in doing a spike on?
Yeah. I think it's good to keep it at a spike. I don't know. I kind of have some crypto, meaning cryptography, kind of like study background. We'll see how how useful that is. But yeah. I think that's an interesting rabbit hole and something there. And if these Zpoken people are kind of like open to communicating, that could be interesting. So yeah, I'd definitely be up for giving it a shot for sure. Another thing, I kind of missed the ball on the conversation, but also testing. If there's any more testing, I really enjoyed the testing I did last time. I'd be happy to do more of that too. But yeah, I like this spike idea for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So in general, like I have like a lot of time over weekends. So like I do actually have time to put to Beerus. It's just like during the week, it's kind of where things get a little bit sometimes tight. So yeah, I would be definitely up for tackling that this weekend for sure.
Cool. Okay, so I'll at least give you the contact information for the Telegram handles for the Zpoken guys, just so you can ping them if you have any questions on your spike. And then Damien has the proposal for RPC testing. So yeah, as many testing PRs as anybody ever wants to put in, I think that's great. And then as Damien outlines how we're going to move forward with the RPC testing, maybe he can open up some issues for people to take on the RPC testing side. One thing that was interesting to me in your presentation was about the full nodes exposing a specific RPC endpoint for a light client block view.
Exactly. I was about to say that.
We need to, as this Beerus team becomes like, the light client experts, I think it's going to be important for us to, jump on the community forum and start talking about those types of things. Like we will need those same exact endpoints for Beerus and to have a robust light client ecosystem, but it's not on anyone's radar.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys know the community forum, but I'll post it in the Telegram channel. Yeah, just to keep in the back of our heads, like those types of things and like how Starknet becomes, light client centric. I think essentially we'll have to push on that because we are the light client.
No, yeah, but so basically it was like Beerus exposing those those RPC endpoints once the computation is done about the proof.
Oh, I was understanding it as the full node was
Yeah,
exposed.
it's a full node. Yes. But you in our case, you think that we can make starting moving a bit like full node can expose this because full node are not proving anything. Oh yes, Python is proving now, right? Pathfinder is verifying right now.
Yes.
I think there are. So basically, yeah, if we can move the full node, it can be great. But also, if Beerus makes some computation, perhaps it can make sense to expose. Or no.
I think so. I think yes, but I think the more important thing is that this is the other reason why this conversation hasn't come up in the Starknet capacity is that there's not a well-defined consensus for Starknet L2, right? So like once that gets well defined, as in like, okay, this is an epoch, this is when we have, explicit finalization, not from a centralized REST API, but from a decentralized peer-to-peer network, then it's going to be really important that those full nodes expose those metrics and those finalization details. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yes.
Okay, cool. So we're running out of time here. So I think so Glim has a pretty amazing, interesting messaging architecture that he's created at Screenshot Labs. We're running out of time, so we might push that to the next community call. But I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you guys for digging into these. It's been really enlightening to me to hear all of this stuff, and I think it gives me at least an idea of where we can go with some of this beer stuff. So yeah, thanks for joining today. I guess we have another couple minutes. Does anyone have anything to say or any questions on any of the presentations here?
I had a quick question, I'm sorry. So kind of like new to the whole ecosystem here. And yeah, I met Lewis and he just kind of talked about like submitting a project. Is this kind of like something that everyone goes through and just kind of like any sort of project if I want to come up with something on the side? He seems like the kind of like the purpose was tweeting about it. Did I have a clear understanding of that? I mean, and also building something for fun, but also like I think it's it's kind of like a social media thing as well. Like being creative together.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's also a Louis thing. So like, did you tweet is Louis's meme basically. Anytime you have
Okay.
anything cool, he needs you to tweet about it and he needs to echo it out. But yeah, if you have like do you have a project that you're interested in or want to bootstrap?
I don't know. I kind of had an idea of seeing it. I don't know if it would be if this makes sense at all. I haven't really thought about it all. But the first thing that popped into my mind is because I kind of have some background, kind of like more functional programming, is to like try to like implement some functional types like semi-group monoid, like kind of like the simple stuff in Cairo, and just to see if how that goes, if it goes anywhere, if it's impossible, if it doesn't make any sense, just sort of kick that can a little bit. So that was sort of thinking about, and I don't know. I just thought eventually at some point when it seems like the kind of like my work is a little bit busy, but it won't be busy forever. So when that slows down, maybe I would start that, and I guess get in contact with Louis and tweet and put together a Twitter handle.
Yeah. So basically the way that works is the StarkNet Foundation has these developer partnerships. And Louis is a good funnel for that. Abdel is a good funnel for that. I can put you in touch with some people as well. But let's say that you kind of solidify this idea that you have. If you could kind of put together at least some type of proposal or outline into what are the architectural details of it? What is the engineering impact of it? What parts of the ecosystem does it help or facilitate? And then the StarkNet Foundation will take that in, it will evaluate the proposal, and then you can kind of come up with a developer partnership from there. So I think the first step is basically to kind of solidify what you're thinking.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll see if put some time into that at some point and see if it goes anywhere. Cool, appreciate it.
Sweet. Okay, one more question for you guys. If anyone, I'd like to put some of these presentations on Twitter. If anyone is not comfortable with that, please just DM me and tell me don't do that. And if not, I'd love to kind of put some of them on Twitter. Yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll see you guys.
I want to ask a question. I asked the question a while ago. Let me just send the link. It just takes you straight to the Telegram group, but then it's about a particular function and how it works. And
okay, so this is the code block.
yes,
Yep.
Yeah, so basically it just keeps like the test just keeps the whole part. So I was basically asking, like I want to test inside of that place, and I was trying to ask how would I go about it basically.
This is most likely a no STD issue. So basically you see how there's two start functions here. There's one on 197 and one on 135. Sorry, one on 121.
Yeah.
This is to add no STD support for Beerus, and this gives us the ability to do to target WASM on a compilation. So if we add a target flag for no STD or WASM, it will essentially take this as its start function, not STD. My guess is that the test is only running for STD. and not running for no STD. That's just my guess.
That would make sense. Let me check.
So does that mean like there's no way around it since it's like
We
because
should,
there's actually a test for it, but then I just noticed that it just skips that part, and I was trying to test it, but this
I
this
see.
actually makes sense.
Can you go on the top of the test, Ben? The top of the test file is like there is a macro at the top of the test file. There is a macro saying that if it's not, would it be? But you're saying is it's processing all the tests or only this one is not processing?
Yeah, so that particular test, like if you check, you can check like the coverage. So it's the whole block where it takes the operation into a what is it called? Is it a queue? No, it's not a queue. What is this word in Rust? Forgotten the word. But then it takes it into like it's like a different operation, and that whole block doesn't, the coverage doesn't reach the place, that particular part. So I was trying to look for a way around it.
Okay, for some reason this isn't pulling up. I'm almost positive that's the issue. And what I think what you can do is add another macro here to make sure that that test file, or maybe even separate it out into another test file that doesn't have this top level macro. And make sure that that runs for no STD. Or I guess which one was missed? The one that was missed was 135. Yeah, so that's interesting. So I would assume that this function would be run and that this function would be missed.
No, actually, what
No,
I'm saying is it actually runs the function, but the code block doesn't touch it. It just jumps to the end of the function. So it just jumps to OK. Like it stops at
I see.
line 135
I
and jumps
see.
to OK.
I see. Okay, so interesting. So maybe it's a threading issue where the test tries to spawn a thread. And I'm not sure, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I need to look at it. But it sounds like an async issue, like as in we're trying to spawn a thread that essentially gets returned right away. Because you're saying it jumps down here, right?
Yeah. It
Huh.
just jumps to OK. It doesn't even run Tokyo.spawn. It just goes straight to OK, like the end of the function.
Is that the if that is at the top then? Where is it?
You want to go back to the macro at the top?
No, but the if it goes directly to OK, it means that the if block is not evaluated.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not something related to the synchronization.
Okay,
You say
no,
directly goes to OK?
actually, it runs from 12 to 132, right? And that's inside the if block, but it just jumps to OK from there.
My guess is it's something with this thread, like it's trying to spin a thread, but that thread essentially gets either canceled or sent right back. And then you have this async issue where nothing in no business logic in here is actually being run and you just return. Let me take a look at, does anyone else have any idea on that one? All right.
For me, it looks like it the synchronization, but perhaps I will also try to check it out. But it looks like the if is just not getting it.
But I think he said he was getting execution of this.
That's how.
Yeah.
Okay, so it enters and then it exits. Okay.
Okay, let's take it offline if you don't mind. Easy.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
All right, guys, appreciate you. Again, any presenters, DM me if you don't want to be exposed to the public. Later.